Recently, there has been growing debate about whether the U.S. has the capability to remotely shut down the F-35 fighter jets operated by its European allies, causing widespread anxiety among those who have chosen this aircraft as the backbone of their air forces. Although Lockheed Martin, the manufacturer of the F-35, and multiple European countries have publicly stated that the U.S. cannot remotely disable these jets, no European nation is fully convinced. The reason is simple. The core source code of the F-35 has never been made available to America's allies, leaving them unable to verify whether Washington's assurances are truthful. Moreover, if the U.S. ever wanted to render European-operated F-35 inoperable, it would have numerous ways to do so. No kill switch would even be necessary. These concerns are not unfounded. Simply put, after the Trump administration cut off intelligence support to Ukraine, the U.S.-supplied HIMARS rocket launchers in Ukrainian service suddenly lost their ability to conduct precision strikes on distant targets. This has led European nations to worry that Washington could one day similarly disable U.S.-supplied weapons used by its allies. According to a Financial Times report on March 9th, the U.S.'s sudden pivot toward Russia and its decision to halt military aid to Ukraine have made many European nations regret their decades-long reliance on American weapons. This dependence now forces them to rely on Washington to keep their military forces operational. If they see how Trump treats Zelensky, they should be worried, said Michael Grev, a former Gripen fighter pilot and CEO of Swedish defense AI company Avionic. Nordic and Baltic countries need to ask themselves, will he do the same to us? This isn't just about a simple kill switch, said Justin Brock, a researcher at the UK's Royal United Services Institute. Most European militaries are heavily dependent on US support for communications, electronic warfare, and ammunition resupply in any major conflict. Meanwhile, Europe's reliance on US weaponry is increasing. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, between 2019 and 2023, American weapons accounted for 55% of Europe's defense imports, up from 35% in the previous five-year period. In reality, key elements of Europe's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities are effectively mortgaged to the U.S. and operate on the premise of close cooperation with Washington. Many European nations use the U.S.-made MQ-9 Reaper drones, which depend on American satellite communication links and software support. Italy and France must undergo lengthy approval processes to arm these drones with missiles. European governments are not just concerned about specific weapon systems, but about the broader risk that the U.S. might withdraw support for communication networks and intelligence sharing across all platforms, from fighter jets to Apache helicopters and Patriot air defense systems. Rumors that the U.S. could remotely control or disable F-35 have circulated for years. However, it is important to note that there is no concrete evidence proving that F-35 in service worldwide could be disabled through a simple remote command from Washington. The Belgian and Swiss defense ministries have issued official statements emphasizing that the F-35 cannot be remotely controlled or disabled through external electronic interference. Lockheed Martin also released a statement denying claims that the U.S. has the ability to activate a switch to disable Allied-operated F-35. The issue, however, is that the U.S. has consistently refused to share the F-35's core mission code with even its closest allies, including the UK, citing security concerns. As a result, whether the U.S. has embedded backdoor mechanisms into the F-35 remains an open question that no external party can verify. That said, even if the U.S. has not deliberately tampered with the F-35 systems, it still has ample means to significantly degrade the combat capability of European-operated F-35 within a short period. The simplest way for the U.S. to exert control is by managing the supply and maintenance of critical components. The intellectual property rights for the F-35 belong to Lockheed Martin, while the rights for its F-135 engine are owned by Pratt & Whitney. These two defense giants effectively control nearly all logistical operations related to the F-35, preventing countries operating the aircraft from conducting maintenance independently outside of designated contractors. For instance, many crucial F-35 components, especially key electronic systems, are often encrypted, requiring them to be sent back to authorized facilities for data access and maintenance. Additionally, the vital stealth coding must be serviced at specialized facilities using dedicated equipment. How effective is this control? A historical example can illustrate the point. In the 1970s, Iran acquired a fleet of F-14 fighter jets, but after relations with the U.S. soured, Washington cut off the supply of spare parts. However, Iran's F-14 are still flying today because the country has been able to acquire parts through gray markets and smuggling channels. If a European country were to face a similar embargo on F-35, relying on gray market or smuggling channels to obtain spare parts will be far more difficult. Lockheed Martin maintains tight control over F-35 components, even affecting the U.S. military itself. For example, U.S. Air Force officials have repeatedly expressed concerns about frequent shortages of F-35 spare parts, which is one of the main reasons why the aircraft's operational availability has remained consistently low. As previously mentioned, the F-35 is a highly digitalized fighter jet, requiring specialized equipment and authorization for maintenance. This means that if U.S. suppliers were to withhold support, European-operated F-35 would face the risk of being grounded. Moreover, before each mission, the F-35 must download a highly sensitive mission planning data package from classified U.S. military databases. These packages contain crucial intelligence, including details on enemy air defense systems, which are essential for the F-35's survivability. The data is used to calculate the optimal stealth flight path through contested airspace by factoring in enemy air defense coverage, the aircraft's stealth and electronic warfare capabilities, sensor ranges, and coordination with allied platforms. This system is one of the F-35's most powerful assets. Without access to these data packages, the fighter jet would lose much of its stealth advantage, making it significantly more vulnerable to detection and interception. If a country were to be denied access to U.S. databases, its F-35 fleet's stealth effectiveness and mission planning capabilities would gradually degrade as battlefield intelligence becomes outdated. The U.S. could also restrict authorization for other key services, such as communication networks, beyond line-of-sight communications, and specialized data links. The loss of these capabilities would severely impair the aircraft's combat effectiveness. In short, the U.S. does not need to secretly implement a kill switch to control the F-35. European nations that have spent billions acquiring the aircraft are already at the mercy of the U.S. in an openly systematic way. If any European ally were to defy Washington, the U.S. could swiftly cripple its F-35 fleet simply by cutting off intelligence, sharing, and component supplies, drastically reducing its operational capability.